We'll give you more details even on issues around the electoral conduct and the proclamation in this particular discussion as we speak to the IEC's Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Sai Mamabolo. Good evening to you, sir, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps we even start with, just less than 100 days to go before the elections, and there's now this big push this weekend. It's important to note that this marks the final voting station-based registration opportunity.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for having us. Indeed, it is the last opportunity for voting-based registrations. There'll be no such opportunity again ahead of the elections, which are scheduled for the 4th of November. So it is incumbent that we say to South Africans, take advantage of this opportunity. Come to the voting station, confirm the correctness of your details, and if you've not registered, this is an opportunity to register. We really are urging South Africans to do this because we want to give everybody ample opportunity to be on the roll and ultimately to cast their vote on the 4th of November. It's an important constitutional moment for the country when each of its citizens can make an informed choice at the ballot box.
And I know we touched on it just as I was introducing you a little bit, but it's worth expanding on because after this there's the proclamation and it has serious consequences as far as the voters' roll and the Code of Conduct is concerned as well, among others.
Oh, certainly. Soon after the second registration weekend, our anticipation is that the minister responsible for local government, Minister Velenkosini Tlhabisa, will proclaim the election date. Now, the proclamation of the election date has a number of profound consequences. Firstly, is the point that you've made that on that night, at midnight on that day, the voters' roll will close, meaning no more persons may be enlisted on the voters' roll, and neither can those that are registered change their details after a proclamation day. Secondly, the Commission has to issue an election timetable in terms of which certain dates and cut-off times for the performance of various electoral functions, such as the publication of the voters' roll, the publication of lists of voting stations, and the closing date for candidate nominations will be regulated. And lastly, the proclamation also sets in motion the effective date for the Electoral Code of Conduct. So all this myriad of electoral functions and activities will take effect on the date on which the minister proclaims the election date.
And, sometimes people will take it for granted that there's, online systems, and then they always think that these are perpetually available. So perhaps we speak to someone who says that, yes, even after the proclamation, this speaks to voting stations, not necessarily the online voter registration portal.
Indeed, the portal will remain open post the registration weekend until the date on which the minister legally proclaims the election date. Nonetheless, it's best to do it now, get it out of the way. Don't wait for that proclamation date because the tendency in the country is that we tend to want to do things at the last moment, and there's a surge in registration activity, and you find that our channels are struggling because of that last-minute surge. So our advice to everybody is the online system is available currently, is data-free. Use it now so that you don't experience disappointments at the end when the minister proclaims the date.
And we, sometimes take it for granted that people will listen to all the conversations we have. But perhaps we speak about the readiness for this weekend, the number of people you have on the ground, but also at the same time, for someone watching us and wondering about these processes for the very first time, what are they to expect if they choose to go to a voting station?
Well, at voting stations, we'll be operating just under 24,000 registration stations over the weekend. We have on the roll currently 28.7 million people who are already registered. Our registration points will have 48,000 people who will be administering the registration exercise. And we hope that the stations will operate from 8 in the morning until 5 in the evening on both days. The bulk of the work in the registration station is going to be happening on a voter management device, which is essentially a device that is used to scan your ID, record your personal details, as well as your residential address. The residential address is important because it places you in a voting district of a ward in which you live. This being a local government election, a ward election is important. You can only influence the electoral outcome of a ward in which you are ordinarily resident. So those are some of the key activities that are going to be taking place over the weekend at the voting station. The primary thing, though, is that you bring an ID book. The ID book may take the following forms. It could be the green barcoded ID. It could be a smart card identity document or a temporary identification certificate issued by Home Affairs. Home Affairs has already announced that they'll also be operating over the weekend between 8 and 5, so that if you've made an application, you've not collected your ID, you have an opportunity to do so over the weekend. But furthermore, if you lose your identity document today, you may procure a temporary identification certificate, which will entitle you to register and change your details as may be appropriate.
So where are we now in terms of the political parties, the numbers, and also what about the candidate nomination process?
In terms of the party registration, the registrar of parties is the commission, and the commission can confirm that as of today, there are 620 political parties that are registered. Of course, experience teaches us that not all the 620 parties are going to be contesting. Some will, others will not. As regards the online candidate nomination portal, there's some great activity happening already on the portal. We have made it available so that those parties that are ready with their candidates, they may commence capturing them. As at today, 76 parties are busy capturing online, and about 39 independent candidates have already started capturing their details and so on. And we think this is a loaded initiative that people don't want to wait until the very last time to start capturing. The online candidate nomination system works in a internet ecosystem, and many factors might affect its operational functionality on the last day. So it's best to do it early when you can rectify mistakes if you want to, and so on. So we really are encouraged by these 76 parties that are already capturing, as well as the 39 candidates, the independent candidates that are already capturing. And we want to call, especially for bigger parties, because they have the greatest number of candidates, that they too need to follow suit and start capturing early on. They'll only submit on the day, but at least if the information and the detail is captured, it makes life easy for everybody.
And there's a very important process that you've been on as well, which I want us to end off with. And this is around the Disinformation Code of Conduct and the public submissions having been extended until today. How has that process been and what happens next?
Indeed, today is the conclusion point of the consultation process, having had that period extended. We will now evaluate all the submissions that were made. It may be that certain provisions of the code are amended on the strength of these submissions that we now need to consider. Once the considerations are done, the Commission will take the final decision on adopting that code of conduct on measures countering disinformation, and will have that code promulgated. All things equal, we wish for the code to have effect from the date on which the election is proclaimed, so that the two coincide. But we don't know the extent of the submissions. We'll know that after today. We still have to work through the submissions before we can get to a definitive date.
All right, appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to us and for giving us that update today. Chief Electoral Officer, that is Mr. Sai Mamabolo, speaking to us about the registration weekend. It's the final one for voting stations, so do not wait until the very last minute.